Hello, Brother Sewing and Crafting family. Angela Wolf here, and we have a really fun show for you today. What's the date? It's the beginning of the month, so you know what that means. Free design of the month. So if you're watching this years later or months later, we are in August of 2023. And this design is super cute. So Joanne is here to talk about that and a very fun project for you. But I have to say, it is so nice to see all of you. It seems the YouTube fans roll in way first, and it's great to see you. So we've got Joanne, and we also have the Squirrel Cam live today because you know what's happening. The little babies out there are running all over, and we've named them Stitch, Rip. Oh, what was the other one you guys said yesterday? Max. I'll have to ask Joanne which one she wants. Joanne, welcome to the party.
Hey, everybody. I'm so happy to be an honored guest with the squirrels.
So yesterday in the chat on my live show, we were trying to pick names. So they come up to the window and they knock. And so I'll take it out. But they keep roaming around. They're laying under my car. I'm afraid I'm going to run over one of them. But so we're naming them. And I think yesterday it was Trisha that said you should name them Rip and Stitch. And I said, well, I'd rather Stitch than Rip. I don't know about you, Joanne.
Oh, that is so cute.
So I'm very excited for today for the free design of the month. Everybody loves this one.
Oh,
and
me too.
What you have today is really cute. I'm just going to bring up a photo so they can see this.
Yeah,
love this.
There it is. And I know everybody else is excited to see it too. I'm just seeing everybody rolling in and want to wish you all a happy day. It's good to see everybody.
For those that are rolling in, we are live streaming. We are live. And we are live on YouTube and Facebook for Brother Sews. So if you're on there, be sure to subscribe, follow the Brother page, and all of that stuff from all the stuff that we love. And make sure you love the post if you like it, and Brother will know that you want more of these. So Joanne, this is a really, really cute project. I brought up your slide just so people could see the picture of it. But this is a really cute project. You knocked it out of the park again.
Well, I see Barbara Jones here saying that the design is breathtaking, and I agree 100%. It's so beautiful and so detailed. It really does take your breath away. It's a very, very special design. So I'm really happy to feature it on this project. It's actually something to celebrate National Friendship Day. Now, I know we all have you look at those calendars, which is what we're all here for, right? Our love of sewing and the friendship that it brings us all together with. But it's funny, if you look at one of those calendars, you'll find a day for just about anything and everything. And some of them I kind of have a little hard time getting on board with. But this one in particular, we did something last year for National Friendship Day, and I had a lot of fun with that one. I actually had lunch with friends a couple days afterwards and made each one of them a matching thing from what we did last year. And so I'm excited to do that again this year.
What did you do last year? I can't remember, Joanne. I know it was really cute though, and we got to hang out on Friendship Day again.
Yeah, so it was great. It was a zipper bag from my design center with a little bird. And I had a little saying on it. I forget what the saying was, but it was really cute. Something about friends are together forever. Something along that line.
I'll bet you there's fans here that are watching that watched last year, and drop in the comment if you remember the phrase.
But this year, I didn't even have to make up a phrase because it was all included in the embroidery design. So how do you like that? A lot of times I'm adding lettering to an embroidery design, but in this particular case, this is all part of the featured design, and you could just see the incredible detail of that font style. Isn't that cute? It's so cute.
Absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is gorgeous. I'm seeing Lois is...
Jan, you did make it. We are live.
All right, Jan, great. And Lois is asking about my top. I get a lot of compliments on this. I wear it a lot in the summer. I did not make it, but I could have and should have maybe. But I have some black lace that I've bought to copy this. So watch for that in a future future episode. But yeah, this is
Joanne,
too beautiful.
Does this design all come together as one, or did you piece it together?
All one. So it is designed for a 6x10 hoop. So, we like to mix it up here a little bit. Sometimes you're going to get a design that's going to fit your 4x4 machines. Sometimes you're going to get something a little bit bigger. And this is on the Brother blog. I know Angela's going to show that in just a minute. So you'll see.
And I will post a link right there for you, Anne, on YouTube and Facebook. It looks like a really long link, but it says Stitching Social August Free Design. You'll know it's a real link.
It's right there on the Brother, right on the Brother blog. You'll just click on that and it'll take you right to the digital download, which, by the way, is a very simple PES file. I'd love to know in the chat if anybody here has never downloaded one of the Brother free designs yet. If this, if this is going to be your first time, but it's they've made it very easy.
I'm guessing this is going to be Cindy's first time now that she has a Brother machine,
Yes.
which I believe you won. Congratulations, because with your embroidery designs and jacket, that's how she won. So congratulations.
That was so cool.
Cindy.
That was Cindy. I can't tell you, everybody was so happy for you and so thrilled, and you're going to have a blast with that new Persona machine. You are going to love it. Love it, yes. Love it, love it. But yeah, so this is, like I said, designed for 6x10. So now you'll see in the instructions, I did not use a 6x10 hoop. Would you believe? I think that is the only one I don't have. I've got everything from, the little pocket hoop all the way up to the largest size, but I don't have a 6x10 hoop. So I just used my 8x12, whatever works for you. You're going to cut your fabric to fit your hoop size, and then you'll trim it down afterwards. Wow, we're getting some new ones here. Great. That's so nice to hear. You're going to love it. And make sure that you go to the Brother blog the first of the month and download that design, because it only lasts for the month that it's featured. And then the new month comes and the new design comes. And this design, I think this one would have been around $13 if you purchased it.
Wow.
So
they can still, so if somebody's new to the party and they're going back and watching some of your previous design of the month, they can go back and order it off of
absolutely.
Embroidery.
Yeah, perfect point to illustrate, because the designs don't disappear. They just are offered by Brother for free for an entire month. That's a long time, an entire month. So you got to grab it during that month. And then if you miss it, and you still want to create the project as is, the design is available there for purchase on iBroidery.com, which is the exclusive Brother digital download site. And all of those designs are, directly from the iBroidery site. But get it now while it's free and you'll be good to go.
All right.
Okay. So yeah, that's really fun to see so many people that are, that it's new. Some have already downloaded it. Great. So yeah, this is just a special design with the 6x10. We like to offer a variety and keep everybody kind of going with whatever different hoop size they have. So let's take back a look at the slides for just a minute, and I'll introduce a few things to you, and then we will hop over the machine and actually sew on it. So you can see the color variation there. Now I'm going to tell you that this happens a lot with the designs that are on iBroidery. They're using a different color menu than what we're used to from the designs that are built into our machines. So you do want to pay really close attention to that. If you look at it, when you bring it up on your machine or you bring it up in software, then you want to make sure that you're going to be stitching the colors that you want to stitch. I almost always change them for one reason or another. The main reason usually I change them is because I like a few different colors. So in this case, I wanted more purple pots. So you can see in the original colors, there's a green pot, there's the blue, and there's only one purple pot. So I changed my colors to give me more purple pots on there. And just
say that fast 10 times, Joanne.
Brightened it up a little bit. Sometimes I will also change colors, and I encourage you to think about this, especially with the design. I think this had 19 color changes total. Some of the colors were repeats, but if I can minimize colors, sometimes I will do that. I'll look at a design really carefully and say, oh, could I have, 3 flowers with the same color and not have it really make a difference rather than having each one change color. Sometimes I like that look better because it kind of coordinates it a little bit. But yeah, Anne's got a good point there. Don't forget Art Spira has free designs too. So, think about the other thing. This could just be a jump start for an idea. And I always try to build some special techniques into the actual project. So if you don't have access to the 6x10 for this particular design, find another design, repeat some of the techniques, and make it your own, right? Isn't that what it's all about? Making it
That
your
is.
own.
Hey, Joanne, Connie has a quick question. So if she does not have that, what size hoop did you say you needed?
6x10.
6x10. If
So
she does not, she only has a 5x7 and smaller, will it just not read in the machine then? Is that how that works?
Correct.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to say if you have software, you may want to try shrinking it because it's not that much bigger, but you do need that extra length. So, and that's just a little tip for you. If you are downloading or getting a design that's a little bit larger than your largest hoop and you have software, BES Blue software is one of the ones that I recommend highly as a starter software because you can do a lot with it and you can resize your designs. But if you do choose to resize designs in software, no matter what software you use, you want to be very careful not to go more than about 20%. Or if you go more and it's going to change the stitches, then do a test sample because it's always best to test. We all know that all too well, right? So, and no, Jan, it will not work in a multi-hoop because in order to have the multi-hoop, you have to have the design already broken down into sections. So, you just gotta be aware of all of those different things. And that's, again, while I'm a big fan of having some sort of brother software at your fingertips, because software expands your repertoire. Now, we always like to think, oh, we might grow up into a bigger hoop down the road. And that's always something to, to hope and wish for. And it's always a possibility for a lot of people to upgrade at some time in the future. But in the meantime, or if that's not going to be a possibility, for a small amount of money, really, in the scheme of things, you can add software, and software just expands your embroidery universe and makes it so much bigger. It's like you're just living on planet Earth when all you have is your machine. But when you add software, now you have access to the Milky Way because there's just so much more that you can do. So, and the software is really, especially with the more entry level ones, are not difficult to use. And there's some tutorials on the Brother blog for that as well. So
Perfect.
hopefully that
Carol,
helps.
there's a link. I dropped a link. If you scroll back, I'll drop another link, but you go to Brother's blog. Go to brothersews.com, scroll to the bottom of the page, go to their blog if you don't see the link, and you'll see it there. So, all right.
So yeah, just so everybody knows, the design is on the Brother blog. It's linked in the actual instructions. So when you find the detailed written instructions for this project, you will find a link to the design. So let's go ahead and bring up those slides just one more time. We'll go through just a couple things. Thank you, Christy. I agree. It is a great design. So we've got the original colors. We've got the modified colors. When I do modify colors, I give you that listing. So if you just want to be good to go and ready to sew, copy mine and go for it. You don't even have to think of it, but do your own thing if you want to do your own thing. So then the next one, let's see, what do we have on the next slide? So I just like to always let you know what the basic steps are so that you can kind of pre-plan the project in your mind. A couple of weeks ago, I wrote an email to my email list, and I said, how many of you dream about sewing when you can't be in your sewing space? And I got a lot of comments back telling me, oh yeah, I'm sewing in my mind. I'm sewing in my mind. So I like to do that with a project. I will think through what the steps are going to be before I even create it. Obviously, I've got an idea for what I want to make, but before I make it, I actually kind of like block out in my mind what those steps are. And then once the project is finished, I always include the details of that in the project, so you can get an idea of what you're going to be doing as you progress in this. I think it just helps you get kind of geared up for it and prepared. So you're going to create a pattern, a very simple pattern. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. You're going to prepare your fabric and to fit your hoop and the actual pattern piece, and then you're going to embroider it. So what do I mean by prepare fabric? Well, I like to, I don't think I have a piece here with me, but I can show you the wrong side of my sample piece. I like to fuse interfacing to my fabric. Now, I've chosen to use linen for this, and I recommend linen is one of the most beautiful things that you can stitch on. If you can find decorator weight linen, not, I'm going to still call it medium weight, not heavy weight. That's wonderful, but a lot of times you can find this also in the, section of the fabric store where you might find fabric that would be used to make a jacket or, something like that, because it's just got a little bit more body. But I'm adding a lot of dense embroidery to this. And if you look at my finished item and you look at my piece here, you are going to see that it is pucker free. And that is always the goal. Now, sometimes you're going to have a few wrinkles here and there. It's kind of the nature of the beast when we're adding something to fabric that wasn't really designed to be there. We might have, some little parts there that may, have a little ripple or anything like that. But I do not want my embroidery to be puckered. And when I see puckered embroidery, I want to reach out and say, let me help you. Let me help you. Because there really are so many different ways. I've actually got a video on my YouTube channel on how to do pucker-proof embroidery. But I'll just give you a few tips here. And one of those tips is adding fusible interfacing. Now in a garment, that's going to work if you're doing a collar or a cuff or a placket. Sometimes a band area can be interfaced. That's one of my top tips. But when I'm doing it for craft items, I can almost always add fusible interfacing, and it's not going to affect the project at all. It's actually going to enhance it. So when I do, I choose one of three different things. You've seen me do a lot of projects with fusible fleece, fusible craft fleece. That actually functions as an interfacing and as a stabilizer for the fabric. So it beefs up the weight of the fabric and allows it to hold that density from the embroidery design better than it would if it was just a single layer of fabric with some sort of stabilizer added to it. And I'll talk about stabilizer in just a minute. But so fusible fleece can be something that would work, and that would work on a pillow and different craft items. Or I'll choose fusible interfacing, and there's two kinds that I like. Now, I know none of them are a brother product, so I won't mention any brand names. If you want some brand names, give me a shout out, connect with me from my website, and I'll be sure to give you some exact tips for that. But I like to look for interfacing that is designed for shirts or, that like men's shirts. So there's specific interfacing that's designed for that, for the cuffs and collars. And it's a medium weight fusible, and it's stiff without being too stiff. And it's perfect for something like this. So that's what I actually used on the back of this piece. It's very hard to see because it's white. So you got white on white, but it is there. It's fused to the entire piece. The other one that I like is called a weft insertion interfacing, and it's designed for suiting, but it comes in two weights. One is a little heavier, one is a little lighter. I like the little bit lighter one, and I will beef up my fabric with that as well. And then I do use stabilizer as well in most cases. So when I'm adding the fusible to, a medium weight fabric or even a little bit lighter weight fabric, I will often then add, and I'm talking about a woven fabric. Knits are a whole different ball game. That we'll cover in some other day when we're doing something on a knit. And Angela, I know you just did some things on knits, so they'll get some good tips from that. But when I'm doing it on a woven, my go-to is the tearaway stabilizer. And I got my nice big roll of the Brothers Stabilizer. This is SA5820, and it's actually linked in the instructions. And if I use this very often, I will hoop it right with the fabric, because again, that's going to add a little more body and a little more thickness. And whenever you have more thickness and you're hooping the fabric, it helps that hoop hold onto the fabric more securely and tighter. And I'm seeing a question about the interfacing. Most of the interfacings that I purchase are available, readily available in the what we would call the big box stores where we would buy fabric. So if I don't hoop the tearaway, then I will float it underneath, and a lot of that just depends on the weight and the stiffness of the fabric. If it's already, you know, a good weight and firm, I will just slide the tearaway underneath. If I feel like I need a little bit more body, then I will layer it with that. So for this project, you will need to cut your piece, your linen, or whatever you're going to use, and interface it and make sure it's going to fully fit the hoop that you use. So I had to use a little bit of a larger piece because I stitched mine in the 8x12 hoop. Okay, so what do I have next on that list? Let's see.
Let's bring it up here. Oops, sorry. I thought it was up here. Where did it go? Here you go.
All right, so on this one then, there's the pattern. So very simple pattern. I'm all about easy. I mean, I like projects that have detail and some intricacy and some, you know, special features, but I do try to make it as easy as possible. So pattern wise, I just took an ordinary piece of computer paper. I figured it was just the right size for a mini pillow, rounded off the corners with I think a 3-inch glass, something like that. You just need to round those corners a little bit. And then my front piece, once it has been embroidered, and I pull away all the stabilizer, I give it a good press, and then I will use that pattern to cut it to this size. So again, easy peasy, very simple. And then my back pieces, you saw from the picture there, it's just, I took the pattern, I cut it in half, and then I added an inch. So from here to here, I have an inch, and that's so that I can overlap that. And it's going to just create what we like to call an envelope back on there, so that I can get my pillow form stuffed inside there. And yes, I did make my own pillow form. So I just cut muslin and used the same pattern pieces, sewed all around, left an opening, and stuffed it. So let me give you my best tip on stuffing. I've probably mentioned this before, and again, not a Brother product, so I won't show you the brand name, but I can show you what it looks like. I know we have some other fans of this. Okay, this is my go-to stuffing, and I do like to make my own pillow forms if possible, because a lot of times you can't find the exact size you need. However, if I'm using a ready-made pillow form, let's say I'm making a standard 12-inch pillow and I buy a 12-inch pillow form, I try to always buy the ones with the zipper opening. They usually cost just a little bit more, but then I can take extra stuffing and stuff it into all the corners, because I like my pillows to be plump. I like a plump pillow. Some people like a pillow that's kind of like a little bit more floppy, and if that's your style, go for it. But I like mine to be fully plumped out. So my favorite stuffing is called a cluster type stuffing. That's exactly what the name would be on the package. And if you look at it, you could see, instead of it being what I would call like tufts or clumps of polyfill, they're actually almost little clouds, and they just fill in all the areas, in my opinion, better than anything else. And you don't have to fluff it all out, because it's already fluffed. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this. Lois says, yeah, that stuffing so much easier than shredding it. Absolutely. It's pre-shredded. So that's a perfect way to say it, Lois. This will make your pillows so much prettier. I guarantee, no matter what pillows you make, this will make them prettier. So
I love that, Joanne. I think if I put that outside right now, The
They use
little,
it.
they
Yeah,
would take that and it would be squirrel nests
they
all over the
would.
place.
They would. I know. I like to put strings and twine and scraps of stuff out in the spring so that the birds can put it in their nest, and it's kind of fun to see them pick it up. All right,
So
yeah, fully fluffed out. That's what we want. So hopefully that makes sense to you with the pattern. You cut it in half, and then it's cut on the fold. So let me just kind of reiterate that. When I cut my back pieces, unless I'm using a really heavy home decor fabric, like let's say I'm doing suede or something like that, when I make pillows and I use this envelope, I cut this double so that I don't have to finish this edge here, and that extra thickness in the back just kind of helps keep the pillow looking nice and smooth, and it gives it a little bit more stability. It makes it just a little bit more firm. So that's my standard practice. I will cut the back pieces on the fold, and unless I'm skimping on fabric, then then you can just make the extension and do do an overcast and turn it under and top stitch it. But that's my tip for that as well. So I think we might have one more picture or two before we move over to the machine.
all right. I
So,
think you do.
okay, so there we go. That shows you the finished piece that's embroidered and the piping. And that's the real cool technique that I want to teach you today. So I don't know if anybody has ever used the pearl and sequin foot for piping, but again, it is my go-to foot for what I consider dressmaking weight piping. And dressmaking weight piping is the piping that you buy in these packages. Again, not a Brother product, so I've hidden the brand name for you, but readily available, comes in lots of different colors. And calling it dressmaker piping is my terminology, and that's just because this would be typically the size that you would see sewn into garments, as opposed to cording or piping that is generally about 2 times wider, that is used in home decor. Okay. So again,
All
that
right.
is the pearl and sequin foot that I am using for piping, and we're going to use it to create decorative piping. And I did see a question, somebody asked if I put interfacing on the pillow back pieces. No, I do not, because I'm cutting it double. However, if you feel that your fabric would benefit from being interfaced, then go ahead and interface half of that, so that when you fold it, you've got that interfacing sandwiched in between. Okay. And yes, there are definitely other types of interfacings. If you have a favorite, go for it. But I have tried just about every single solitary one in existence. I know there's one out there that's really, really popular for adding to embroidery. But for me, when I'm adding density, I'm using those interfacings that I told you about. So if you want to follow my tricks, you're going to have the results that I have as well from that. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Everybody's loving this, Joanne. They love it.
All right, we're ready to go. Let's go sew. Let's head over to the machine. Give me just a minute to flip over there.
All right. While she's flipping, I see some of you asking questions. I'm going to bring this up. This is the actual blog. Here's all the colors in there. Someone was asking the different sizes and stuff. But if you go to the blog, she has everything here for you. Easy directions to follow. So, all right, Joanne.
All righty. So I'm going to start by just giving you another little foot tip. And I don't have my cord is a little short today, so I don't have the ability to swing over to the screen. So what I've done, I'm actually using the Luminaire 3, and what I've done is I have used the projector, and hopefully you can see that a little bit. Let me turn down the light just for a minute so that you can see the stitch that I'm going to use, because I'm going to overcast my raw edges. Let me bring that back up. And I've got it in red, so in a second that should show up there. Okay, I think you can see that. So I'm going to be using, it's actually on the Luminaire, it's stitch number 1-17. It's an overcasting stitch, and it is used with foot G, which comes with the machine and comes with lots of machines, and that is a very common, very popular stitch. So why am I bothering to overcast? Well, I've got a couple reasons. Obviously, this is all going to be enclosed, so it's not as important. I'm going to go ahead and turn that off for now. And, you know, the ravels are going to stay inside the pillow, but linen ravels a lot. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how this foot works. I'm going to line it up with the little opening on the long toe along the raw edge. And if you can see, I don't know if you can see this good, but you can trust me on it. This foot has a little metal pin, and that metal pin is designed for the stitch to wrap over. Go ahead and start stitching it. And when it wraps over that pin, it does a very similar thing to what a serger does, and that is that it helps hold the thread so that it doesn't buckle up or tunnel on the raw edge of the fabric. So first things first here, by overcasting the raw edge of that and those entire back pieces, I'm able to secure those layers together. So remember, whenever you're going around a curve, don't watch what's going on here in front of the foot. Watch what's going on here where the needle and the fabric are aligned. And if I go ahead and turn on my pivot, my pivot function is already on. So let's see. Is it on? I don't think it's on for this one. Okay, so we'll just kind of maneuver that around a little bit. So again, I'm not watching here. I'm just watching here. And I want to go all around those raw edges. And there's another good reason I'm doing this, and that is because I'm going to be adding that piping to the front piece. And if you've ever had to deal with fabric falling apart on you while you're trying to put your seams together, you will appreciate having that raw edge already pre-finished. I know if you have a serger, you know, you could use the serger as well. That would be fine. But I love this particular stitch. Again, it's very, very common, found on just about every Brother machine that I've seen. And it is just a super, super overcasting stitch, especially when you use it with this G foot. That's what it's designed for. And if you could see the screen of my machine, you would actually see that it's telling me that this is the foot that I should use. I'm going to go ahead and do the back piece, and I'm going to do the front piece too. And I tell you a cute story. I just recently had the opportunity to get one of my great nieces started in sewing. If you're on my email list, you saw I wrote a little story about it, but she is a very special girl. She's very talented. She's won lots of awards for music and track and different things like that, but she's very creative, and she's been playing around with fabric and designing for many years, but believe it or not, she's never actually sewn anything by machine. So she got a Brother sewing machine for Christmas from her parents, and she is now graduated from high school and is attending fashion school this fall. So she needed Aunt Jo to give her a sewing lesson. And I know that the fashion school is actually located here in Ohio. And I've heard stories about people that have attended that school. Some of them, when they arrive, they are already very proficient at sewing, and many others have never actually touched a machine before. So I said, you might be behind a few of the students there, but you're definitely going to be ahead of some of them as well. So we're actually scheduling another lesson so that she can make something. But I taught her how to use this stitch and this foot in the very first lesson, because when you think about it, I mean, you're going to learn how to do regular seams, and if you don't overcast your raw edges, what are you going to end up with? A mess, right? So that is, to me, an essential thing to learn, is how to clean finish your edges. And if we remember back to our early days of sewing, we probably saw that listed in the pattern instructions. And I don't know, I'd love to know in the chat if anybody ever struggled over some of the words in the pattern instructions. We're talking about commercial patterns, Angela, not your patterns, because your patterns are designed for somebody that is gonna. It's all gonna make sense to them. But when it says clean,
I had the hardest time.
yeah,
Joanne, that's why I started designing clothes and designing my own patterns, because when I was like 10 years old, 11 years old, even through high school, I couldn't understand the
I know.
terminology.
It's hard enough to understand the directions and read the pictures sometimes, but some of the wording in there, like clean finish. All right, how do you find out what that means unless somebody tells you, right?
That's true.
That's crazy. So isn't this beautiful the way this works? And it's quick. Yes, again, I could pull out my serger, but I've got to thread it. I've got to change the color, whatever. And when I'm doing a small project like this, sometimes it's just easier to just go ahead and pop this foot on and bring up the stitch and go for it. And it does a beautiful, beautiful job. I'll just pull this one over so you can see that a little bit while I'm still stitching this. And it's so accurate. I also use this foot sometimes, just give you a few other tips with it, with an ordinary zigzag stitch when I've got layers like quilted layers. I don't do a lot of, quilts, but I do like to make things from quilted fabric, pre-quilted fabric. And I will use this foot with a standard zigzag stitch and do what I call, I just made up this term, but I call it zigzag basting. So just like you baste to, secure layers together, I zigzag with this foot along those quilted layers to keep everything together. And it also tends to, for lack of a better way of saying it, mash down the layers there, the batting and the fabric. So look at that. Isn't that just too neat and too beautiful? I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So now we're going to switch. I'm going to take off the G foot and I'm going to put on my pearl and sequin foot. And before I put it on, I want to take a piece of piping. I got some purple here and you could see, if you just want to do this with standard piping, this purple would look beautiful with this, but I'm going to go ahead and use this cream color and I'm going to add the stitching to it. On my original pillow, I used purple for the accent to make what I call striped piping. But on this one, I'm going to use pink because I ran out of purple ribbon. But I want you to see this foot. I want to turn it to the bottom side, and I want you to notice what it's got here. It's got a back channel that goes in a Y shape, and it does that so that you could sew over. This is a multi-purpose foot. You could sew over sequins. You could sew over pearls. You could sew over any kind of cording that will fit in this foot. I believe I have a video on my YouTube channel just on this foot alone as well. But for piping, look at how that piping fits in that channel perfectly. So we can always sew piping with a zipper foot, but having a dedicated foot, there's another brother foot that's designed for piping that is wider, but having a dedicated foot that fits that cord or fits that piping perfectly is going to make it so that as I'm stitching, I have no shifting. So I didn't mean for that to necessarily rhyme, but you can see that just stays tight in there. But having that Y on the back would allow me to swirl and twirl, and it'll also allow me to go easier around those curved edges. All right, so for the piping, I'm going to go ahead and change my thread color, and I'm going to change both the bobbin and the top thread to match. And I'm using decorative embroidery thread. You could use regular sewing thread if you wanted to. It wouldn't hurt. But we all know that, the embroidery thread is nice and pretty and shiny, and you've probably already got a lot of it, and you've probably got maybe more colors in that thread than you do even in your regular sewing thread. I know I do, because I kind of stick with basic colors for my sewing thread. And the reason we want it both on the top and the bottom is because once we're finished with this, I'll show you a little finish sample here. It's going to show on both the top and the bottom. So, with piping, you're going to see both sides when you turn that over. So look how cool that is. I absolutely love this technique. Don't ask me how I ever came up with it, because I don't know. I really don't remember ever seeing it anywhere, but I am one of those that just likes to play around with my machine. And I think I was just playing around one day and I thought, what if I stitched right over the top of piping? Actually, I remember now, I was doing an heirloom set and I wanted to tie in the color of some thread that I was using with embroidery, and I had piping included in that project. So I just stitched right over on top of the piping with a decorative stitch. And that kind of gave me the idea to try some different things. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select my blanket stitch. I almost said blind hem stitch. I meant blanket stitch. And again, I'm going to show you on the machine here. I'm going to take this foot. Oh, wait, what am I doing? Almost took it off. I wanted to put it back on there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up that projector again so that you can see what this stitch looks like.
Hey, Joanne, what's that stitch number?
That is stitch number 2-03. So when you look at it, it's you may have multiple blanket stitches on your machine. It's a wider one, and it's one that has longer stitches in between each horizontal bar. So I've already set mine to the proper width and length that I need. I've set it for a width of 6.0, and I'll show you why I did that. If you look, that's going to be, let me do one more thing first. I'm going to mirror image this. Just going to flip that, and you could do it either way, but I think a lot of times we are, we're oriented to our right-handedness if we're right-handed. But can you see how that just perfectly covers the piping? So that's how I adjusted the stitch. And if you look, the straight part of the stitch, so the vertical part of the stitch is going to go right along where the actual seam line is for the piping, where that piping is stitched in, and then the horizontal or those bars are going to jump over, and that's what's going to cause that pretty striped effect. Now, I would recommend that you start with a length of piping that is longer than what you need. Again, I'm doing 2 different pillows with this, and I didn't have all the supplies I needed for 2 of them. So I'm a little short on this piping, but I'm going to have just enough to finish this. But more is always better than less when it comes to piping, so that you can get a proper overlap and then have it, an easy finish. And you'll see me do that in a couple of minutes here. So see how I'm just stitching that right over that? You could leave the projector on if you think that helps you. As soon as I get enough here.
I love the projector, Joanne, so you can see how it shows you exactly what it's going to look like. So you don't even have to guess. Maybe you want it further apart, or,
Yep. Absolutely. Perfect placement. And it saves you from having to stitch out a sample. But look how perfectly that's lining up. Just
beautiful.
Perfect. All right, so we're going to swoop our way all the way down. And, I don't know about you, but I love making some sort of decorative trim with my sewing machine. I know we've talked about this in past projects and past shows, but when you go shopping for trim, for some type of, trim that's a little bit special and color coordinated to your project, you are sometimes going to pay more for your trim than you paid for the whole piece of fabric to make your project. And there's a time and a place for that if it's really something special. But I always go back home and say, wow, how can I do this myself and make something unique, make something special, and save a little bit of money too? Because when we save a little bit of money when we're sewing, then we have more to spend on our machines and our accessories and all of our other goodies. I just love this technique, though. I'd love to know if anybody has seen this before or tried it before. I did a project in the past where I used this to trim a pillowcase, and I had a red and white fabric theme going on, and I used white piping and did red thread to actually trim that.
I hate to say it, Joanne, but you won't believe this. I actually did this by hand. I never thought of using this foot. I did it by hand with gold metallic thread for all the trim on my sleeves, all the trim on my jacket. This would have been so easy. Where were
That
you
is
like
a
12 years ago when I made that outfit?
Oh, that's amazing. That is a great, great, great use of it, though. I mean, you can, because it is, this was the kind of stitch that was done by hand a lot before we started finding it on our machines, but it's so popular. Isn't that beautiful? All right, so we
Beautiful.
don't have much more to go here. I'm just going to trim my threads a little bit. And we are now going to go ahead and sew this to the front. Now, what I want to do is I want to find the center of the bottom. And yeah, some of you may have done some piping where you literally take it apart and you unstuff part of it and wrap it around. And if you like that method, go for it. But I am perfectly happy with what I call the runoff method, where I will just run this piping off at the point of the center of the bottom. When your pillow is placed on wherever you're going to place it, you usually don't see that. And even if you do see it, I'll just bring it up close on here while we got the camera here. Look how neat that looks. That looks perfectly perfect to me, just the way it is. And I don't have to fuss with taking anything apart. So I'm going to line that up at the center, but I'm not going to quite start at that center. I'm going to move just a little bit forward. Oh, I need to change my thread. I don't think I want to sew this with pink. So let me get back to ordinary sewing thread. And you're going to see another trick that we can use to make sure we get this piping perfectly placed.
I'm with you, Janice. That's a game changer.
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't see some of the comments, but I will definitely go back and read them all. And again, I say this every time, but if you have any questions that I did not answer, please, 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 I'm happy to help you. Just get a hold of me through my website, and I will make sure to get an answer for you. Always think about how, part of my sewing life was spent sewing solo, and I didn't have anyone to ask questions. So I'm always happy to be that helping person if I can do anything for you. All right. So again, this is going to go right underneath. You saw me do that before. However, I sure don't want to sew on top of my piping or to the left of it. I want to sew right along that seam line. So I'm going to go ahead and just move my needle over. And I'm going to go as far over as I can. So if you're doing it by the width of the machine, it's going to be on 7. If you're doing a left-right shift, it's also going to be on 7. But I just want to catch just that edge. So basically what I'm doing is I'm basting it in place, although I'm not using a basting stitch, but I'm just doing that first preliminary stitching. So I'm holding that piping to the edge. And it's a very narrow seam allowance, so you want to make sure that you sew carefully. Straight edges are really easy. When you get to going around the curves, make sure you ease it just a little bit so that you're not pulling it. And again, if you need to adjust and pivot, you can do that. I'm going to turn my pivot function on for this. So when I have pivot function engaged, it raises the presser foot. And then as soon as I start stitching again, it lowers it. Love, love, love that feature. It's one of those features. I'd love to know in the chat if you have done this already, if you have this feature. If you have been afraid to use your pivot feature, let me know. I'd like to know that too. I was in a big classroom once where I was helping people, and we had one of the first machines that had pivot function from Brother in that room. And there were a lot of people that were kind of like, oh, I don't know if I like that, because it was something new and different. But once you've used it and once you get used to it, there is no turning back. You will want that on every machine if at all possible. So you can see how that goes right nice around the corner. Again, I'm not trying to sew right up against that piping yet. We will do that in the second step. And I'll just give you another few piping tips while we're at it. I mean, this is, every piping project is a little bit different, but if I'm doing piping on garments, and Angela, I'd love your take on this as well, but I like to actually hand baste it in place. It gives you a little bit more control for going around curves and kind of manipulating it, because you can ease it in with your hands sometimes a little bit better. If you can machine do it, great. But Angela, how do you usually do yours when you're doing piping on a garment?
I just sew it.
You sew it. Yeah.
I
Well,
do. I don't like hand stitching unless it's well, I love hand stitching if it's hand beading, or like I mentioned, I hand whipped my piping, but I sew it by machine.
You're brave. You just go for it.
Just go for it.
Sometimes it's how you were trained by somebody. In fashion school, we had to do so much hand basting, and you just get kind of like, it's like if your mother taught you to do something, it's ingrained in you that that's just the only way to do it. If she ironed pillowcases, you iron pillowcases. That's just the way it is, right? So I learned to do a lot of hand basting in fashion school, and it's kind of
Oh yeah.
I kind of carried in. So you can see I'm a little skimpy on this
Oh, you're
joining
just
part.
gonna make it though. I think you're
I'm
gonna
gonna
make
make
it.
it. I'm gonna make it. So when you get to this point, you're not going to be able to ride over both of those. You don't have a channel anymore. So don't worry about it. I'm going to actually pull this one just a little bit more. And just ride right over it. The foot will not have a problem, and you'll be able to get right through those layers. All right, I'm going to cut that thread. And we are almost finished. We only have one more seam to go here. So I'm just going to go ahead and layer my front and back pieces together.
Zena, I'm with you. I used to press pillowcases eons ago, and I love pressing now. When I sew, I'm a pressing freak. I'm with you, Joanne. But when it comes to pressing other things, I remember when I was maybe in high school, I offered to press my dad's shirts for, I don't know, like it was $1 or $2 a shirt. And I thought, oh, that's a good way to make some money. It lasted 1 week. 1 week. I was like, forget it.
Ah,
I'll take the trash out.
we like to take shortcuts sometimes, right?
Yeah.
All right, so now I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to move my needle position over. Now, this is a place where I recommend, if you want to be really particular, you may want to do this with a basting stitch and just test it first to make sure. But I'm just going to kind of wing it. I'm going to go to 6.0. And then what that's going to do, I think I'm going to even go a little further. I just want to bring that needle so that it's, actually, I know what I did before. I think I used 5.50 because that's 1/4 of an inch. I want to bring my needle so it's going to really bite right into the edge. You can see where my fingernail is, right up against that piping. And, this is one area where if you have an adjustable piping foot, adjustable zipper foot rather, and you're sewing piping with that, you kind of get a real feel for it. But I know that 1/4 inch is about what I need there. And so from the edge of the foot to where the needle is now is 1/4 inch. And I just want to make sure my raw edges are even. Go all the way around here. Hopefully it'll line up. Again, this foot just makes it so easy to swirl around those curved edges. If I didn't have that channel in the back, it would be much, much, much trickier. And while I'm sewing this, I'd love to know too if anybody else has ever used linen for their embroidery projects. One of the other reasons I love it, I don't think I got to say too many different things about it, is you can starch it before you do anything with it, and that'll also beef up your fabric a little bit, firm it up a little bit. It starches really well. It presses really well because it can take the heat of an iron, and it's not iron shy like a lot of synthetics are. It also, because of the weave, if you notice, you can even see while I'm sewing this. Oh, I want to make sure I catch that. You can see while I'm sewing this that the weave is relatively open, and that's very helpful when you're embroidering. A lot of embroidery just comes down to experience, but in my experience, the more densely woven the fabric is, the trickier it is to get good quality embroidery results, because there's not a lot of room for the needle to penetrate. And when the needle can't penetrate it, it ends up kind of like punching into the fabric. And that can also cause puckers. So that's why sometimes on a very densely woven fabric, you'll have some issues with that. Now, we like densely woven fabric because it looks like good quality, but the linen just is kind of a real happy medium. All right. So we're going to turn this right side out. I have one more little trick that I'm going to show you that's included in the instructions. So at this point, I would, take the time to press all this carefully, but can you see how beautifully that worked by using that foot? Is that just not like one of the coolest things you've ever seen? Look at that. There's a foot for every function, isn't there? And having multiples of accessory feet of different styles and different types really streamlines your sewing and just makes your projects so much prettier and so much more professional looking. Look at that. Look at the bottom there. See how nice that came out? Just a little bit of pressing and we'd be good to go. So I'm not going to bother to stuff this one today, but I'm going to show you the one last little technique. We good on time? Yeah, we're okay.
Got about 3 minutes.
Do you have,
Diane wants to know what needle size are you using?
I actually never switched from my embroidery needle, but I am using an embroidery needle that is the titanium type, and the titanium needles are a little bit stronger. So it's a size 11, but it's made from a, stronger metal, and it just kind of does a nice job of punching through extra thicknesses. So sometimes when I know I'm going to switch to a sewing and I don't want to change my needle, I will use a titanium needle. All right. What we want to do, and when I come back to the regular camera, I'll show you kind of more why I'm doing this. But what I want to do is I want to do a little tacking stitch for my ribbon piece. Let me find my ribbon piece. Oh, I might have buried it. Let me go to the other side of my table. There it is.
Joanne, is that the foot that you used for adding the piping? What was it called again? Someone wants to know if it comes with the machine.
It does not come with the machine. It's an accessory foot, and it is called the pearl and sequins foot. So you're not even going to see the word piping in it.
Thank you.
Crazy as that sounds. All right. So I have now snapped on my button sewing foot. And why in the world? I'm not going to sew a button, although I could. That might be kind of cute. I want to do a tacking stitch to tack my ribbon in place. And I just love using the button sewing foot for this because it's going to do a perfect stitch. I just go ahead on my menu and I find my button sewing stitch on my luminaire. It's stitch number 4-23. And I don't have to do anything else. I just put it right over the center of that ribbon piece in the center of the top and stop when it stops. Ties a knot. I like to tie one more knot just to make extra sure. So I'm going to use my tie off button and then I will cut that thread. And now I've got a perfectly tacked piece of ribbon that I can tie into a bow like you saw in my other one. So just like that, makes a nice little accent. Ties the color scheme together, gives it a little extra boost of cuteness. But there's another reason I did this. And this pillow is small, and I think this pillow would be really, really pretty hung on a hook, or there's like all those cute like little, even one of those stick-on hooks, or hung from a hook on a shelf, or hung on the wall as a little wall hanging. If you want to use it for that purpose, you can just take this ribbon, just tie a little knot at the top. And if you're giving this as a gift, you can give them instructions and they can use this either way they want. And once we've got that tied, we've got a nice little hanging loop. And I'll switch back over to you, Angela, and we can take a better look at this in front of this camera.
What a cute project, Joanne. Super cute, very easy. Someone's asking, what needle did you use for your embroidery?
I used a size 11 needle, but in this particular case, I used a titanium needle. So a size 11 titanium embroidery
For the
needle.
embroidery too, and the sewing?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so my ribbon got a little, but you see how that could be used then? You'd still stuff it. You'd still, so my pillow form, is just pushed in here like this. Just popped right in. But if you could see on this one, I'll go ahead and I'll untie the ribbon. I'll tie this one how I would tie it for a wall hanging. I love things that have multi-purpose and multifunction. And I could see this hanging on a wall. Like I said, I could see it hanging from a shelf. It's just one of those super cute things you can use a multitude of different ways.
So cute. So
Wouldn't that be
Joanne.
cute hanging? Wouldn't that be adorable?
Absolutely.
All right. Any more burning questions?
Everyone's saying thank you, thank you, thank you. No, there was one question from Becky earlier. She wanted to know why you pulled your bobbin thread up instead of just starting to sew.
That's a wonderful question. I really appreciate it. Again, old habits die hard. And I am really used to having that tail behind me. Sometimes I want to hold that tail a little bit to help, get the fabric started. Sometimes I want to use that tail to tie off the threads and bury them so that my thread can be really neat. I've been known to do that at times. But there's another really good reason. The automatic tie off and the automatic cutting is fabulous. It's absolutely fabulous. And I use it a lot. However, you will always have a little bit of a fluff of thread when you use that because the machine has to tie and then it has to cut. And so it leaves a little bit of a fluffy tail. And when I want a neater finish, then I go ahead and pull my thread up manually. So nice to have options. You can do it whatever way you want.
Actually, someone asked for the website to find you and the blog. So I'll bring it up here because you can go to brothersews.com. Joanne's website is Let's Go Sew. I'll bring up have it scroll here for you if I can find it.
And while you're doing that, I'm going to just give a couple more little ideas. So you already saw the option for turning it into something hanging. This design would be just as beautiful on a regular wall hanging. Maybe add, quilted blocks around it, fit in with the color scheme. You can make a really bright, beautiful wall hanging. You could use it on a tote bag. You could use it on pouches. This design just has lots and lots and lots of possibilities. Agree?
Agree. Oh, everyone's saying cute project. Love it. Love it. Yes, very fun. So you can go to the blog, download the design. Don't forget to do that. You have all of Joanne's directions, easy to follow. And if you have any questions, you can contact her at letsgosew.com.
Please do. It's been my pleasure to share this with you all today. And it's been wonderful to see everybody here. We just appreciate so much. If we were here and you weren't, Angela and I would have some fun talking, but it would be really like, where is everybody? So having everybody here turns it into a party, right?
Absolutely. And Jan, that stitch was 1-17 that you're talking about, the first one. All right, Joanne, great project. Cannot wait till next month. Do we get a hint yet? Do you know kind of what you're doing next month?
Let's see. It's terrible. Sometimes I forget what I did.
And for those of you that want to see Joanne with the free design next month, I believe it's the Tuesday after Labor Day.
Right now I can't remember what I did. Is that the craziest thing ever? I know I loved it when I did it.
This was so cute. You get a pass. It's okay. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming, Joanne. Thank you for a great project. Until next time, we will see you next week, Tuesday at noon on the Brother Sews page. Although I think, let me just double check. Is next week the crafting week? I hate to send you to the wrong place.
Well, you double check. I'm going to double check and see what I made, and maybe I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek because I could pull it up on my computer here. Let's see. Oh yes, I have to give you a little hint. Next month is National Sewing Month.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yes. So I have a special sewing project for you that I think you are going to really enjoy using. It's very practical, but it's also pretty. And I think it's something every single stitcher would benefit from.
Perfect. Perfect. And yes, I see somebody saying, can I watch this over? If you're on Facebook, share this to your page. That's the easiest way to watch. If you're on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. You can also share this, download the link so you can watch it later, all of those things. And don't forget to give us the love. Then brother will know that you want to keep watching us. So next week, I just checked it. Tuesday is on the crafting side with May. Thursday's on the sewing side with Emily. So we will see you then. Joanne, thanks for a great project.
Happy sewing, and we so appreciate your comments. Keep them coming, okay?
Bye, everyone.